Welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast, a production from Empowering Pumps and Equipment as the voice of the pump and related equipment industries. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Empowering Industry Podcast. I'm your host, Charli Matthews. It has been such an amazing season. We have been on the road at different trade shows. I've been visiting customers. I've been getting ready for Epic. And so there's been just so much energy. And I have to say, one of my favorite things that have happened to me where I felt like an influencer, even more so than the podcast, was I got to take my picture with this amazing pump. It was massive. And my guest here is the one that is the photographer behind it. So I'm going to let you just introduce yourself to everyone and we'll get started.
Sure. Thanks, Charlie. My name is Panagoulias. I'm the Director of Condition Monitoring and Test Lab for Hydro Incorporated.
Yes. So in the test lab, that's where this pump was. And I felt so special. Anytime that I can come and visit a facility is excellent. And then honestly, that test lab had some of the most remarkable equipment in there. I didn't even get a picture of the impeller, but I remember it like it was yesterday. Just really cool equipment that you get to see. And so I was just curious your thoughts on it. Do you still get kind of jazzed up as you walk through the test lab?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I started at Hydro 12 years ago, and I started as a junior engineer in the test lab. So it always has a soft spot in my heart. And of course, I think it's one of the coolest places in the industry. There are certain people at Hydro that would tell me at the time, you've got the coolest job at the company. And I sort of didn't really know why they would say that or why I do, but having the opportunity to walk back there now as I do amidst the other responsibilities I have, I remember that it is really cool. And your enthusiasm that day, taking the photo in front of that large pump, which was one of the largest ones we've done this year, just in terms of sheer size, not in terms of horsepower, but just in terms of sheer size. It's pretty cool. And, Hydro's always been in the aftermarket. We're not an OEM. So in our lab, you'll see pumps from Flowserve, Sulzer, Gould, small manufacturers, German manufacturers, Asian, anybody. And so it makes it really unique because you are going to walk by a giant VB2 radially split pump. You are going to walk past a large vertical pump impeller that's waiting to be assembled. You're going to walk past 10 horsepower submersible pumps. It's always something new and different. And I think as an engineer, that keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. You as an engineer, how did you get into this field? What made you want to, become an engineer?
Well, become an engineer, that is a question I always ask people who apply for jobs at Hydro. I think understanding, what somebody's why is in terms of what they do is so important. So as a kid, I always excelled with Legos and building things and just loved the understanding of like taking something apart and rebuilding it. I never really got into cars for whatever reason. I never had a car until I was like 22. But
that does play into it, whether you
it usually does. Usually, you see a lot of folks in the industry are like started as car people, but no, I just really got so interested in the sort of physics of real world stuff and connecting that not just in a theoretical sense, but in an applied sense. So I was kind of gravitated towards engineering, was gifted at it, went to University of Michigan, got my degree in civil and environmental engineering. Sort of an apocryphal story from that time would be when you get to junior and senior year, you can take like electives. And I remember going to my dad, who has a master's degree in aerospace engineering, and saying, Dad, what should I focus in? And he said, well, whatever you do, don't do hydraulics. So naturally, I chose what he told me I couldn't do. And here I am.
I love it. I love
in
it.
terms of how I got the hydro, that's another funny story too.
Well, yeah, we definitely want to hear all that.
Okay.
I do think it's interesting how, we either want to be exactly like what our parents want us to be, or we want to be the opposite. There's so many different ways that can go, but we are glad that you're here. And so tell us a little bit about that journey to Hydro.
Well, I should say, my dad has a master's degree in aerospace engineering. He is a cab driver in Chicago and has always been. So he's probably one of the few cab drivers that can talk intellectually about like heating and cooling processes in a nuclear power plant. Anyway.
Super cool. He just keeps throwing these cool nuggets at it. I think we've said cool like 10 times on here already because it's just that much.
How I got to hydro, you knew Mr. George Harris before he passed away, yes?
I did, absolutely.
So when I was applying for jobs out of college in 2011, got an opportunity to apply as a test stand engineer. I had no idea what that was. I just knew that it was in engineering adjacent to civil and environmental, more mechanical than anything. And I applied. And the story goes that my name, Panagoulias, a very Greek name, was sitting on top of a list of resumes in the head of HR's office. And Mr. Harris happened to walk down and see my name and said, "Who's this Greek kid?" And the head of HR said, "Oh, this candidate for the test lab." And he said, "Hire him." And so that was sort of how I got my opportunity at Hydro, was just having a Greek name, right place at the right time, which,
Well, it's funny. It's
that's how
funny.
it
I went
goes.
to a Greek restaurant the first time that I went to visit Hydro, just down the road from there. So it's really kind of interesting. So it really doesn't matter how you got into the industry, because so many people fall into it or they just
Mhm.
randomly applied. There's so many different reasons to get there, but why do you stay?
Well, that depends on who you ask. My first boss, Jeff Johnson, who's retired now, he used to say that if you're in the pump industry for 2 years, you're in it for life. So I suppose after 2 years, it's not so much a choice as it is just a vocation. What got me into it, though, in the beginning was just the complexity of engineering challenges that we see. Being in the test lab for a non-OEM, I got exposed to a lot of different things very early. So you've got your statics and dynamics, you've got your mechanical engineering, you've got fluid dynamics, you've got electrical engineering. You touch a lot of different disciplines. And what could be better than that for, young people coming out of college that just are thirsty for experience or thirsty for action? Um,
Well, and it didn't stop there for you. So, because
no.
I know the story, that's why I love kind of talking about. I'll call you young you, but you're past you. And today, you're still doing amazing things that seem like they have to be just as cool. Well, I saw them. One element of kind of walking into Hydro there on 40th Street, and I walk in and there's this beautiful screen. Tell them about this screen. What is it showing?
Well, sure. Yeah. When you walk into our 40th Street Service Center in Chicago, you'll see a wall of televisions that show a map of generally the US or North America, but sometimes a broader picture. And on that screen are each different location that we have our remote monitoring technology deployed at and are monitoring rotating equipment assets real time. And people see the screen and they go, "What? What is that? What is this sort of like weird pump world NASA thing you've got going on there?" And we explain it and show them, and it's just fascinating to be able to remotely monitor charging pumps in the nuclear industry thousands of miles away, or pipeline booster pumps up in Fort McMurray, Canada, or in one case we actually have at a steel mill in New Zealand D-scale pumps being monitored real time. So it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, and seeing that, it immediately just opens your perspective, because you think of Hydro as a test repair lab, and then you just see it transform. And I think that that was really great. And I know we do a lot of marketing and we've done a lot of different stories and everything, but to see it right when you come in, it kind of shifts your perspective, makes you ask different questions, makes you imagine what your facility could do differently. And so
Mhm.
that was really cool for me to see and kind of go through that experience, to think about it on a global scale. I don't know that I've done that to that scale before. So I think that one of the challenges is looking at that and thinking, okay, I've got all this information, but you also have people that help people with that information. So you have a team. So how do people kind of get engaged with you on that side?
Well, before I even answer the question, you're right that a lot of this stuff is great. It's great technology. There's great tools out there for sure. It can be a challenge in terms of data overload, right? With how we can make this data make sense, but also make it make sense in real time, because it can be overwhelming. So we do have a team of engineers here that are responsible for monitoring that equipment on behalf of end users, with end users. And we try to do it with that with approach. We try to do it alongside with people. Our mission as a company has always been to work hand in hand with end users. And that applies to this technology as well. We're not on the ground. We're not in the plant. but we have access to that data and we can help determine maintenance actions together as a team. So that's always been our approach, is assigning engineers to be responsible for those accounts, getting to know them well, trying to leverage the experience that folks have with that equipment in the field, and then try to use the data as best we can to determine the next steps.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It has to be a trusted partner because you have to get in there with them in their facility, understand their equipment and the process that they're trying to actually do, to be able for that data to really mean anything on the other side. So knowing that and knowing the test lab and all of the different features as far as the services that you offer as a whole, you're like, okay, this is my trusted support. If nothing else, you're leaning on them to say, what do you think? And I think that's really, really cool. So I'm just tickled about us using the word cool so much on here. So when I think about this whole kind of route that you have taken to get to where you are, I always think of like inspiring somebody to come in and join the pump industry, for example. There's so many different jobs that you can have within it. So it's not really, okay, this one's more fun than that. It's a journey of knowledge. And I think that you were able to gain so much knowledge right at the beginning of your career so that you can kind of do some of this remote understanding. What I want to. I was going to ask what's your favorite part of kind of your everyday, but what I'd rather ask you is, if you were bringing somebody in, a new person, what would you show them first?
Well, I would probably try and meet them where they're at. I mean, one of the reasons why I asked the same question you did about, what is your why for being an engineer? What is your why for being in this industry? Is you have to find something that you're passionate about that drives you, whether it's helping somebody avoid a catastrophic failure, increase machinery uptime, et cetera, all the talking points. But really, whatever it is, like earlier today, I was on the phone with a subject matter expert who knows more about vibration analysis than me, much more experience, has seen many more things. And we got to share with them the software we use with our condition monitoring platform. And they said, wow, this is amazing. This got some great tools. That made me really proud. So getting to share the high quality things that we do and we can offer the industry to help people do their jobs better, to help companies be more profitable, to help people have less headaches. That is what drives me. And I think if we can find that for each person coming in the door, what gets them motivated, the rest of it takes care of itself after that.
It absolutely does. And that's what it's about, finding that passion and the why. I love that. So let me just ask you, where do you see this headed? Where are we going? There's a lot of, well, first of all, you've done the test standard. You had to get certified. You've got all of the backing of the knowledge there, right? And now you're connected all over the world. Where do you see, what's the next step for you?
Well, for me or for hydro or for both, I mean,
whatever comes out of your mouth will work.
Fair enough. Where are we going? Some days I don't know, Charlie. It's the truth. Where are we going? I think hydro is at an inflection point where we've got a network of shops globally. We've done great in the aftermarket pump repair side. There are things we do really well. There are things we do great. There are things we got to get better at, like any company. Growing into the digital space with a condition monitoring product that can leverage the experience we have in the shops. That's been the mission for the last 5 years. We're going to continue that mission and continue to grow it. Once we've amassed all the data on rotating equipment that we have and can start leveraging tools like machine learning and AI to get the most out of that data without having to burden more resources in terms of people looking at it, I think that's a frontier that's going to be really fascinating, how we leverage all that information, how we bring that to our customers, how we allow our customers to access that and help them maximize their process. So, it could go any number of ways.
Well, I love that you said that because it makes me think of this presentation when I was at Reliable Plant, and they were talking about IoT and how we haven't even gotten this implemented, right? We talked about it and then we went straight to AI, and there's so much to be done, especially in our industry, of just getting people to the digital, the digital stage.
There's so many steps in the process, and everyone's at a different place. I mean, intra hydro, we're still implementing parts of our ERP system. We're like everybody else. There are plants that have systems wired throughout collecting data on every piece of equipment that could fail. And there are people that have boiler feed pumps that are critical for their process that have nothing on them. Everyone is at a different stage. It's about meeting people where they're at and trying to move everyone forward. Some folks great to work with, really willing. Some folks way ahead, and we can all learn from them. And other folks got to be pulled along. So again, it's just about meeting people where they're at.
Yeah, I love that. So, as far as like getting out there, are you part of any type of associations or organizations that you get to kind of connect with others?
Am I? I
I
wonder.
don't know. That's what I'm asking.
No,
I don't know the answer. I know Hydro is part of
yeah,
HSA.
Hydro's part of the Hydraulic Institute. I've been a member of the Hydraulic Institute in the past. I'd like to be more active with them. Currently, I'm a instructor with Vibration Institute, and that marries well with what we do in terms of condition monitoring. I've done some work with AIST. I'm a member with them. Trying to go down the list.
I know there's probably more, and so
there's so many acronyms. They all jumble together.
Yes,
there's a lot of great organizations that we could not only just I could participate in, but the people that I work with could participate in. Yeah, there are a lot of folks out there that can advocate for really great change industry wide. Those are the ones that come to mind that I know I'm a part of, or have been a part of at least.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that you're also giving back as an instructor there at the Vibration Institute. I think that is how we get the next generation on board, and we have to like also keep this information, store it, record it and share it so that we can have that, I guess, knowledge hub, if you will, so that it's going to speed up, right? Everything's
well, that's one of the gaps that we try to fill that we've always played in the industry is like there's so many experienced people out there that are great that know everything. Well, they're retiring, and the next generation, my generation, the millennials, much maligned millennials, we need to gather that knowledge from places, and a lot of it is going to be subject matter experts that are in adjacent companies, that are our vendors, that are our customers. That knowledge has got to come together from a lot of different areas for all of us to succeed, because it's walking out the door every single day.
Yeah, and there's also that training room. I'm just remembering as we walked the tour that you.
See, that's why I took you upstairs. That's why I took you upstairs.
Because you have to see it, right? And so it's very impressive that you've kind of got this hands-on equipment. You've got this training room that we can, really just learn, and bringing people there on site. Again, there's nothing like it. I mean, if you're in the industry, you need to be reminded of the excitement around it. And hopefully we've done that a little bit by talking about some of this, but to see it in person, to, really think about why did you become an engineer, right? That is a great question to ask people. And then, for our maintenance and our people and our operations and how they're putting the things together, repairing them and sending them back to work for these vital industries. It's just so rewarding. And so I really like bringing people together and inspiring them to remember why we're doing this. But they need the knowledge and the training too. So offering that both there on your facility, also EPIC that I mentioned earlier, bringing people together. It's just a great way to keep our industry growing and remember, and inspire because it is pretty awesome work that we do. And definitely Hydros plays a part in that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So are you ready for your rapid fire questions?
I am. I've heard about this, by the way.
Oh dear. Well, I'll start with this one. What's the best advice that you've ever received?
Best advice. There's a gentleman who's in charge of the shop here at 40th Street at our 40th Street Service Center named Jeff Giroux. First person I ever met at Hydro when I came in, 22 with a suit and tie going into this for my interview. And he said, learn everything you can. Learn everything you can. No one can take it away from you. And thankfully he's still here and reminds me of that, but that is the best advice. Learn as much as you can.
I love it. And switching gears just a little bit, what's your favorite book?
Oh, my favorite book. I could go any which way with that. My favorite book, I have a 3-year-old son. My favorite book is The Little Prince. I read it to him. He doesn't get it. It is so meant for adults, and it is just a reminder to be a kid. And it's great. I couldn't recommend it more.
I love that. So you're reading to your kid to remind yourself to be a kid. and
Yes.
have fun and play. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. On that note, what's your favorite music, band, song?
Oh, my favorite music. I think people get really caught up in whatever music was like their favorite when they were 20 or when they were a teenager. My favorite band is The Killers. It has been for a long time and it will continue to be.
I
And
love it.
as much as my wife wants to embarrass me with that, that is my answer.
You own it. You own it. I have many like that I just own. So you talked about the best advice that you have ever received, but what is the best advice that you would give somebody? I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but best advice you would give somebody coming into our industry?
Yeah, I would go back to that find your why, find your passion. I think people are the best. People are great at so many things. You can be great at so many things, but you're going to be the most impactful at something that you're passionate about. So whatever you need to try to find that passion, keep trying it. And when you find it, it's not going to feel like work. It's going to feel like fun.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm
Most
gonna
some of the
just
time.
because there was so much lead up for this, I'm gonna create another question. What
Okay.
is something that um you think people would find interesting about you?
I don't know if anything's interesting about me. I'm named
Very
after the Greek god of war. That is something that's interesting.
do what? I interrupted you or something. Tell me again.
I said I'm named after the Greek god of war,
It's super
but,
open.
but I'm very peaceful, I promise.
But I love it. I love it. And so you're in Wonder Woman just because
Yeah, I'm the bad guy.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you are not a bad guy in the industry. We absolutely love you here. Thank you for the tour and the photo. And I was trying to say earlier, like it made me feel like I was actually that influencer people talk about, where you get to see yourself with something you're passionate about and tell a story all in one post. And you gave me that, and I just really appreciate that. I appreciate Hydro, and we absolutely love working with you. We had so much fun at TPS, taking the pump apart and putting it back together. And I look forward to learning from y'all, and just really can't wait to see what you do next.
Well, thank you. And thanks again for having me on. And come back to the shop because every month there's something new and interesting here. So if you need that inspiration, come on by.
Absolutely. I will do it. And y'all share this episode, like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff for your every Monday treat. But for right now, just share this with somebody that you think would be great to come into our industry, or that's here and just wants to be inspired. And remember why it's so cool to be here in the pump industry. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, be empowering. Thanks, Ari.
Thanks.